Esperanza, and she is a Nubian dairy goat. She kidded a month ago, and she is a Nubian because of her nose and her ears. We'll go briefly over the parts of her. The nose, muzzle, crown, ears of course, throat, neck, brisket, the leg. This is the point of elbow, her knee, her pasterns are this section here, and then of course the hoof. Her back, we go through the withers, the chine, the loin, and into the rump. This section here is called the heart girth. This is where her heart is, so this is the heart girth. This section here is barrel shaped and is called the barrel. We go into the flank, thighs, down into her rear leg. The angulation comes at the hock, straight down the leg, again to pasterns and hoof. From the rear, we can see the angulation of the legs, and this is the udder. This area of attachment is called the escutcheon, and we go into the floor of the udder. We go into the floor of the udder, the teats. There are an orifice in each of the teats. This is the rear udder attachment, and this is a tricky word, the medial suspensory ligament. If you think about it as a big elastic band or like a farmer's suspenders, that's exactly what this medial suspensory ligament does. It holds the udder up and separates the two halves of the udder. There is also to be considered the fore udder. So that's the front of the udder, and you want the fore udder to be well extended into the body. The whole udder should be held above the hock. We're also concerned with the chest floor, and this is the brisket. The rump is delineated by several bones: the hip bone, the two thurls, back to pin bones. And that is just on either side of the tail. Of course, on a dairy goat, the most important is the mammary system, and is hence worth 35 points or 35% of the scorecard. So that's the first thing to judge always. It should be a pleasant shape, balanced, and well-rounded.
Okay, good.
So it's a globular shape. The texture should be soft, pliable, and free from scar tissue. One of the things that you can judge is teat placement. They should be well apart, squarely set, and plumb, which means up and down. Good. The fore udder should be high, wide, and smooth, securely attached, tightly attached without a pocket. Some of those will have a little indentation here showing a pocket. It would look similar to that. And she's well attached. It needs to blend smoothly into the body, and again indicating that there's room for milk or capacity. The teats need to be uniform or the same size and of a pleasant length and circumference. They need to be cylindrical, which is a round shape, and well delineated, well defined, that you know that there's a teat there, not that the teat and the udder are all one piece. You need to have a little bit of definition. You want a graceful appearance, smoothness of blending throughout. She is particularly nicely smooth from her shoulders into her withers and is blended completely through the rest of her body. So we want that smoothly blended, especially the shoulder blades, which should be smoothly set against the chest wall and the withers. Also, fullness in the crops, which is this area right here. 5 points is also given for breed characteristics and the head. If you're judging a class that says Nubian goats, then it should have the breed character of a Nubian. If you're judging Alpines, it should have the breed character of Alpines. There are specific breed characteristics for the different breeds. Some of the breeds also have color faults and color specifications, so that comes under breed characteristics and the head. In a Nubian, you want a Roman nose, long flowing ears, and that's what makes a Nubian a Nubian. In her back, you want a strong back that appears straight. The chine and loin need to be wide in the width, and you want them strong and nearly level. You want the withers will stand up slightly, and then the rest of her back should come down in quite a straight line. This is a little low in the chine. There are some goats that are almost an ironing board. The rump should be long and wide and nearly level from hips to pins, and also from thurl to thurl, this section here. So you don't want it to come up like this and have the backbone prominent. You want that to be a nice, square, flat surface. We want the legs wide apart, strongly set. The bone comes into consideration here. The tendons need to be well defined so that they are strong muscled. The pasterns need to be a medium length. If they're too long, they're going to break down over time and start to drop a little, droop a little. The feet from the front would be pointing forward with closed toes, a nice deep heel, and a level sole. The forelegs are straight up and down, and that is viewed from the front and from the side. Don't forget to look at them from both directions. The forelegs need to be straight with nice clean knees. You don't want big lumpy knees. And the hind legs, you want a nice angulation coming into the hock and then straight down from the hock right down to the ground. And the hock should fall directly under the pin bone, and that should be a nice straight line right to the ground. You want them to be wide apart but directly under the thurl. You want them to come well up straight into the escutcheon. So you don't want it to be a pinchy straight or pinchy triangular line here. To judge dairy character, we look for a long lean neck, nice clean throat. The withers well defined, so nice and sharp and wedge shaped, rising above the shoulder blades. So you don't want this to be flat. You want this to be raised slightly. You want the ribs are to be well apart, the bone wide, flat, and long. This is only, you're only going to be able to do this if you can put hands on. The flank should be deep, well arched, so that you'll see in some dairy animals this flank is really quite pronounced, and they look almost like they're skinny, but that is a good dairy character. The thigh should be slightly incurving, and she should have light, nice, loose pliable skin. The looser the skin, apparently, the more milk they produce. And that's dairy character. You want width throughout, viewed from the top. So look down on top of the animal. You want her to start in here and widen slightly as she comes out so that you have width throughout the whole body, viewed from the top. We also would like the ribs to be well sprung and continuing that width back towards the flank. Depth in the heart girth. Fullness at the point of elbow, which is right here. This is the point of elbow, and you want her to be full in this area here. Again, what you're judging is how much body she has. So it's depth, length, width, and width throughout. Fleshing would be the amount of weight or body fat that the animal is carrying, and you want, in a dairy goat, you don't want any excess fleshing, because a fat goat is putting more of her food into making a little bit of a chubby and not as much into her milk. Let's first compare the two mammary systems, as that is the most important feature on a dairy goat. I've brought two animals that are quite different, and so it should be quite easy for you to see the differences on them. Remember to use comparative terminology. You want ER words or more. The best thing to do is to look for what might be lacking on the lower placed animal. It's easier to find a difference and then credit the stronger animal with that placing. Quite often, everything's the same, other than something that this animal might be lacking. So let's go through some of the comparative reasons that you might use on these two animals. This is animal number 1 and animal number 2. Animal number 1 will place for her strengths in having a stronger, higher rear udder attachment, a more globular udder, more pleasing and desirable delineation of teats, and a more even udder. Also showing more capacity. Number 1 over number 2, also showing strengths in body capacity. With more width throughout, she has stronger, more spring of rib. She is wider. Goat number 1 over number 2. For her strengths in body capacity, she's deeper in the heart girth, more capacious in her barrel. I will grant to the second place doe a more levelless of top line. Number 1 places over number 2 for the width on her chest floor. They both have very nice strong front legs, so I can't compare anything there. There's considerable age difference between these two does. Sunfire is a 7-year-old, and Centra is only a 2-year-old, and this is her first time having kids. When you're judging two largely different age groups, you would, and there was not specified that it was any specific age, you judge each individual goat on its own merits relative to its size. You judge the animals the way they stand on the day. If an animal has been milked completely out, then of course their udder development is going to look differently on that particular day. Besides dairy goats, there are meat goats, pet goats, and a general purpose goat. What you would be doing is making sure that you pay attention to what the class is called. You think of the reason that that animal is on the earth. Is it for meat production? Is it for milk production? And you judge it accordingly, what that particular animal can provide for you the way that it is standing on that day. A strong point to consider with whatever the class of goats is that structure is structure, and the strengths of feet and legs, body capacity, and strengths that will show endurance and length of production are all equally important.